Hello, teachers. We're starting Unit 3 titled Jacob and Esau. And we have a different key passage and a big picture question. The big picture question is, who is in control of everything? We'll see that people will try to do their own way through their sin nature, but God will always be in control. The answer is God is in control of everything in heaven and on earth. Nothing is outside of God's good plan. And we see in our passage today that God shows them a plan that He already has, and people, through their sin, try different kind of conniving and schemes to get what they want. But ultimately, it goes according to God's plan, or God is able to use those to accomplish His plan. The Christ connection part, for some of you, may have been harder to teach because it is longer, but I will start to emphasize this in our large group as well so that we can have some repetition going for the students. It's God's covenant with Abraham continued to the next generation. Esau sold his birthright, giving Jacob the right to the wonderful blessings God promised to his father Abraham. Through Jacob's family, God would send the promised Savior to bring blessing and salvation to the world. And the story point is Rebekah and Jacob tricked Isaac into blessing Jacob. First is Genesis 50:20. You planned evil against me, God planned it for good, to bring about the present result, the survival of many people. And this is what Joseph tells his brothers after he becomes the right-hand man of Pharaoh. We see even in our passage today that there was evil conducted, but God used it for good. In the youth group gospel project, it is similar, but it may give you some insight. Their main idea is that jealousy and pride lead us to make selfish decisions. Their Christ connection is Isaac and his family proved themselves to be sinners by their selfish and self-centered actions. This is the natural way of humanity. But God was sovereignly orchestrating his events and redeeming this family sin to fulfill his promise to Abraham. God would still make Abraham into a great nation through Isaac and Jacob, which would ultimately lead to Jesus, who fulfilled humanity's need for salvation from sin. Through our Christ connection, I think it will be good to start from the beginning and show how even from creation and Adam and Eve, this story is being tied together and connected to fulfill God's plan. We see humanities starting from Adam and Eve failing, but God is sovereignly orchestrating to bring Jesus to save them from sin. And some applications we see here, you could pause and read these for yourself. In our passage today, we see that Isaac prays and waits patiently for 20 years for Jacob and Esau to be born. So unlike Abraham and Sarah, they did not try to find their own way to have children, but Isaac prayed to God. And after 20 years, God provided them with Jacob and Esau. That was when Isaac was 60 years old. And when Rebekah is praying to the Lord about her twins, she receives a prophecy by God saying that the older will serve the younger. I'm sure she knows this, and probably Isaac knows this. But there's also favoritism in play. Isaac loves Esau more, and Rebekah loves Jacob more. And there is some scheming behind the scenes to get what they want, for Rebekah to get the blessing to Jacob and vice versa. And there's a lot to think about at this point. Did Isaac sin by trying to give the blessing to Esau, even though there was a prophecy given by God for the younger? Or was Rebekah sinning because she was deceiving Isaac? We also see the character of Esau, where he was willing to give up his birthright for a bowl of soup. He and all the characters in the story show that for short-term gain, or just short-term pleasure, they're willing to give up what is more important. And so Jacob receives the blessing, and in the end, is sinning to get a blessing from the Father that important? In the end, what we can learn is holiness and receiving blessing from God is more important than receiving blessing from Isaac. Isaac's blessings was in line with God's plan for Jacob's line, but Isaac's prayer and blessing has no power apart from the Spirit of God. There was no need for conniving and scheming for Jacob to receive the blessing of God that was already prophesied to him. And we see their deception leads to different levels of grief and suffering. Jacob has to run away from home because Esau seeks to kill him. And this kind of reminds us of Cain and Abel. But also Jacob has to flee and live with Laban, his uncle, for 14 years, being mistreated. And he is not able to see his mother before she passes away. And even when he comes back, there is separation between him and Esau's family. So some applications that you may point to our children is don't be afraid of being disappointed by God, that you don't give him a chance to prove you wrong. All the circumstances might point to Esau being blessed and him receiving the promised covenant of God, but God said the older will serve the younger. And even though the circumstances may seem impossible, God is still able to work if we trust him. And we can also ask the children, when does it feel like God is in control in their lives? Or how do we manipulate situations to get what we want? So these are also things that we can think about as we think about our passage today.